All right, well, thank you very much for joining us. I've got myself, Ian Warner. I'm with Trimble within the GCCM division in the group, application engineer and support specialist. And with me, I've got Chris Dizon.
Hello.
Hello. From SketchUp. He is also an application engineer, and he's going to help us out going through the basics of SketchUp and how to create site and logistics models. So, a lot of contractors use SketchUp to create site models, not only for logistics planning, but safety and business development, and also just trying to figure out sequencing on a project. So we're going to walk through the basics of how to build a site model, and after that we'll get into some of the detailing and virtual mock-ups that you can build within SketchUp. And then at the end here we'll get into extended functionality within the SketchUp extension warehouse, and other few items to help you out building your model. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get going.
Before we get started on building the site model, I just wanted to cover a little bit about what you're seeing on the screen in SketchUp, the application itself. First and foremost, notice that we have an axis, the 3 axis lines there. This is just trying to communicate that SketchUp is always in 3D, unlike some other programs you might be used to, specifically CAD programs that are, you're working in 2D. In SketchUp, you're always in 3D, so that's important to know. Secondly, unlike some other programs that work in a parallel projection, in SketchUp, you're always in perspective. Our thought is you live in a perspective world. Why not design in perspective? So just be aware that you will be working in perspective in SketchUp. And then finally, in SketchUp, you have an infinite canvas. So if you need to model something, make sure you model it in a 1-to-1 ratio. You shouldn't be trying to model in any kind of scale or anything like that. And that frees you up to be as accurate as you need without any complications of trying to figure out a scale of a certain item. Then also notice here that, and I bring this up because most people, when they get going with SketchUp, they choose the first template that is presented to them. Template being how SketchUp is presenting the geometry. Notice here that it's a little bit artistic. You have fat lines and you have thin lines. Be aware that you can actually change this to make it look as sharp as you need when you're designing. And being in the construction space, you may not be interested in an artistic look, but more of just a really sharp visualization of your models. So if you happen to be in some kind of mode where it's showing a lot of thicker lines and thinner lines and perhaps some things that look very artistic, be aware you can change that. I'm going to go up to the window here, choose my preferences area, go to the template area, and this is the first one that's on the list. And I'll scroll down here and I'll actually choose, we have one for the construction space. Okay, so I'll go ahead and click OK, and I'll start a new file by going to File and New. And there you have a very white, stark, blank canvas. And although we're in a top-down view, I'll just tilt, and now we're ready to rock and roll.
Perfect.
Okay. As you can see here, we do have a blank canvas, and this is something that if you want to, you can start here. You don't have to start with any kind of data, but more than likely, and you can confirm this, Ian, that you will probably have some kind of asset to work with to start as a base to model from.
Yeah, a lot of times when you're going after a project, you'll start out with some PDF documentation or even just paperwork so that you can scan in, and we're going to walk through that process of converting that into an image and bringing it into SketchUp as a background.
Yep. So yeah, let me go ahead and do that. And again, in this example, we're going to be using an image to use as a base, but you could also bring in CAD files. Maybe you get something from the city or from the owner of some existing CAD work that you want to bring in as a base as well. Let me go ahead and just show you how you bring in an image. Say File Import, And let me go ahead and choose the correct folder. And I'm gonna go, it's going to default at SKP, and that's where you can actually import in other SketchUp files into your model. But in this case, I'm just going to go to an image file type. And here's my site plan right here. I'm going to want to make sure that I'm on use as image, okay? And bring that in. I'm going to go ahead and tilt. I'm tilting with the scroll wheel to navigate through my model here. And I'm just going to drag it in at a random scale. I'm going to zoom in, and I happen to know that this specific image has a scale bar on there. I'm going to use that to actually scale this, and that's the next step. If you notice here, I'll take the tape measure tool and I'll measure this from here to here, and you notice that it's communicating to me that it's 16 feet when you know that's supposed to be 120 feet. Okay, so just for confirmation, I'll go ahead and just click once with the pencil tool, click again, and I'll measure this. Okay, and after I click that second time, I'm actually going to type in 120 feet. Okay, if you look in the lower right hand corner, that's our VCB, or visual control box, and that's where you actually just start typing. And I'll hit enter, and now it's actually going to scale this image to its proper size. And if I come back here, you'll notice that's 120 feet.
Nice.
Okay, so now that I've scaled this document, I can actually start working in a one-to-one scale.
Okay, Chris, so if we don't have a PDF drawing, we just know where the location of the project is, what do we do from there?
Well, you can bring in, actually, we have an integration with Google Earth. I'm sure a lot of you might be aware of this. Let me show you how you do that. But first of all, let me go ahead and open up my layers menu. And you go to that by going to Window in the Layers, and you get this dialog box. And what I'm going to do here is actually assign my image to a layer called Site Image. Okay, this is just going to help me manage my model a little bit better, and I'm going to right click on here, and I'm going to go ahead and assign it to Site Image. Now I can go ahead and turn this off, okay? Because I don't want to see that in my scene here. Okay, we'll just take this off the screen here. Delete that. So to bring in a Google Earth image, you have this little toolbar up here. It's called the Google toolbar, and I'm going to go ahead and select to add a location, and it's going to go out to the internet. You do have to have the internet connection to actually have this work. And this happens to be the site that we're going to be working with today. This is the new Trimble building in Westminster, Colorado. And this is a little bit of a cheat, right, Ian? The building's already there. Let's just assume that this wasn't there yet. And what we're doing here is actually going out to the Google services and their servers, and actually bringing in the imagery you would see in Google Maps, actually. So all you need to do is just type in an address or location, and you can search around. If it wasn't actually there, you can go anywhere you want. But once you have the job location found, go ahead and select this button here called Select Region. And this is where you kind of isolate the job area that you want. Okay, and then just hit grab. And then it will bring in this Google Maps image in scale, in its correct location. That happens to be Westminster, Colorado. Okay, and let me go ahead and just put this back up here. And now you can use this as a way as a base for you to start modeling on, giving it some geolocation and some context. Also be aware that along with the flat image, you also get the terrain. Okay, I'm not sure if you can see that, By toggling this on and off, you get the flat image, and then also the terrain. And this terrain comes from the Google Earth servers. Okay, it's not going to be civil grade stuff. It's just going to be enough for you to actually communicate pretty well. You know, that there's an elevation gain or some kind of, you know, contour that you'll have to deal with. So let me go ahead and go back to that original site image that we developed earlier. I'll go ahead and turn this off, and I'll turn off the terrain itself. Okay, so in this example, we're going to go ahead and use this as the base to start building my model. Now, along with obviously these simple 2D type of assets, let it be again DWG or some kind of image, oftentimes you'll have 3D assets like a steel model, maybe from Tekla.
Tekla.
Yeah. Ooh, whoa. So we happen to have one of those. Let me go ahead and import that in. It's kind of important that, you know, when you're bringing in a Tekla model, you'll probably want to convert it first to a SketchUp model in a separate file, and then save it, and then bring that SketchUp model into this environment. Okay, and we've already converted a Tekla model, which happened to be a DWG that we just imported in by going File, Import, and then choosing DWG. We have already done that on a separate file, and now we're just going to bring in a SketchUp model. And I believe this is it right here. I'll go and bring that in as a SketchUp model. It comes in the same scale that was designed in. Okay, so there it is. And let's go ahead and just take this and position it. I'll take it by here and just navigate over, zoom in, and place that down where it needs to go. So now you have starting to build a really nice environment to visualize and to plan that site model with. So let's go ahead and bring in yet another SketchUp model. You can keep layering, you know, on top of each other all the different assets you have. We happen to have one from the architectural model that might have been developed by the architect themselves. Some time to come in. Here's my architectural model. I'll go ahead and just grab it.
You're pressing M for move, correct?
Yeah, I apologize. This video is not going to be a training video, just showing you what you can do, and I'm just going to have it snap like so. Okay. In the previous example, I modeled my site out utilizing previously created geometry or previously created models. But in this example, let's go start all over again, and I'm going to show you how you can build out your site model using the tools in SketchUp themselves to build the geometry. So let's go ahead and get that image back. I'll go to File, Import, and again I'm going to go to the raster file or supported image types. There's my site plan, and again I want to make sure that I'm using Use as Image. I'm going to bring that right in. Drag it in some random scale. Let's go ahead and size this thing up properly. I'll draw my line from using this this benchmark that was in the image document. First click on the tape measure, second click of the tape measure, and then I'll just start typing. That's supposed to be 120 feet. I'll hit enter. And now I have a scaled site plan with the proper size imagery. Let's go ahead and start using the tools in SketchUp to actually start building out some things I want to visualize. I think the first thing I want to do, and this is something that's common on most job sites, I'll go ahead and just build a fence line or a barrier to surround the job site. I'll use the pencil tool to do this. There's more than one way to actually produce this type of thing, but for the sake of time and simplicity, I'm just going to show you one technique using the pencil tool. And I'm just going to roughly go around my job site here. If you had specific dimensions you needed to abide by, you could definitely just type that in to be hyper accurate. But for the sake of time, I'm just going to go ahead and just draw it out visually relatively quickly. Okay. So I've gone around the job site. Let me go ahead and just finish off by using this arc tool because it looks like the road bends a bit. So I'll go ahead and snap to the first point of the fence, and here's the last point of the fence. And when you bring it together, 3 or more coplanar edges, it creates a surface. Okay. So I'll take this push-pull tool. I'll start by clicking on the surface, lift it up in the blue or Z direction, and then I'll start typing 8 feet. That's going to be the height of my fence. Okay, so there's the fence line right there. I'll go ahead and select the surface. I don't need it, and I will erase that. Let's go ahead and just, while I'm at it, for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to go ahead and use this offset tool, which will take the perimeter of this surface that I'm hovering over, and I'm going to build the silt fence as well. So I'll click once, bring it in, and let's say that should be around 6 feet from the main fence line. I'll hit enter. Okay. And then I'll use the push-pull tool again, and lift that up. Let's only go up 4 feet. Okay. And let me go ahead and just erase the top surface there. And I'll go ahead and select that and erase that. So there's my 2 fence lines. Obviously the silt fence might not continue all around the perimeter. You can divvy that up and segment that where needed. Again, this is just an example. Let me go ahead and just colorize my main fence line. Let's go ahead and make that orange. Okay. And then I'm going to select my silt fence, triple click that so it selects all the geometry, and let's go ahead and make that, oh, I don't know, this color. Okay. It's totally up to you, the color designation that you want. You could actually take a picture of a fence and actually load that onto the geometry as a texture of some type. Now I'll actually show you a bit of that a little bit later on in this demonstration. Now that that's created, I'm going to go ahead and just select all that, right click and make a group out of that. That's just to isolate it from the other things that I might be drawing. I could put this on a different layer and then turn it off if I wanted to as well. Perhaps I wanted to use the imagery itself as part of my modeling process, and I'll show you what I mean by that. And first I want to show you what happens here. When you bring in an image, it's basically just an image object. It has nothing to do with textures. It doesn't, you know, it's just something that you use as a visual on a visual basis. But here are currently all the textures that I have in my model. And if I right-click on my image and I say explode, notice that suddenly I have a texture that is what you see here on the screen of my site plan. What we've done there is converted that image into a surface with a texture of the image applied to it. What that would allow me to do here is I'm going to take my rectangle tool, I'll click once and visually make my second click here, and let's go ahead and push-pull that down, let's say 20 feet. Okay. So now I actually have used the texture in this geometry to help me model. Okay. What you see here is just warping of the image itself. I'll click this button to apply the standard default textures so I have a better idea of what I'm looking at there. Perhaps you want to start modeling in here. Perhaps this is where the equipment is going to be brought down into this excavation. So I'll just draw using my pencil tool. Let's say this is the ramp, and then like so. Let's get some colors in here that designate a little bit more earth-like texture. So good brown might work. So, and I'm just navigating around and just clicking on top of the surface to paint it. Okay. So another way you can use textures is to allow an image to do most of the communication for you, so you don't have to model it. In this case, let's bring in some shoring. So again, I'm going to move this off to the side. I'll go to File, Import. Okay, here's my shoring image, and this is just an image I found out on the web. If there's a specific type of shoring, you can go out there and perhaps take a picture of it. It's up to you. But when I select it, I'm going to bring it in as a texture. Okay, so I'll select this here, open. And what SketchUp is doing, it's looking for me to apply it to a surface. So in this case, the shoring is going to go right here. I'm just going to bring it in. Doesn't really matter what scale it comes in, because you notice here that it applied it to this entire side. But really all I'm interested in perhaps is just this piece right here. I'm going to use this to texture the entire outline of the pit. So I'm going to go ahead and just draw a shape in there. Okay, I'll right click on that shape or that surface, drop down the texture and say position. Now this is the area I want to isolate, and if you see these tacks here, I'm going to click once to grab it, and I'll place it, let's say, at the height of that piece of shoring. Okay, and then I'll do the same at the bottom. I won't use this bottom part here because it's all cluttered with earth, but perhaps I'll do it at the top right there. And all I'm doing is zooming in and out, clicking once to grab it, clicking again to place it. Let's see here. SketchUp's even trying to give me a hint of where I should put it. And if you imagine this image being glued to a sheet of rubber, and then you jam these pegs in there and you grab the pegs and stretch them until they snap to the corners of your geometry. Then you right click and say done. There's the image that I'm looking for. That's what I want to use as a texture. And you can see there's my image, but to tell you the truth, I'm only using a fraction of that image. So I'll right click here and say make unique texture. And notice that now I have a texture of just the shoring piece that I want to use. From that point, select it and apply it. Okay, I'm just going to move around here. Okay, and there you go. Okay, again, this was quickly done, but I think you get the concept. I'll go ahead and purge the other one out there. Okay, and now you have some pictures that will help better visualize, perhaps the shoring that is needed inside there. Obviously, you won't have to create everything from scratch in SketchUp. You can use images, but you can also use previously made SketchUp models. We showed you a little bit of that before in the previous example. But one thing that you should definitely utilize is what we call the 3D warehouse, where you can find multiple different components that you may want to use in your site model. You can go there from the web, or you can go there from your component browser and just type in what you're looking for here. In this instance, I actually have preloaded into my own library of components various construction pieces that I want to use. Perhaps I want to bring in, let's go over here, and this is my work trailer. Okay. And I'll just copy that over. Maybe we have multiple work trailers there. Okay. Perhaps I need to draw in let's go ahead and draw in a quick pad. Okay, actually, oops, let me go back a little bit. Okay, and let me take everything I have here. I'm triple clicking to select everything. I'm going to make a group out of that. And now I'll add those trailers in here. Okay. Here there's 3 this time. Perhaps I want to generate maybe a pad for the crane I'm going to be bringing in. Go ahead and just draw one in there. Let's make that 1 foot. Oops. Triple click there. Group out of it. Maybe I'll paint that a specific color again. Again, it's totally up to you, the level of detail that you want to put in here, the level of information that you want to apply. There's my pad. I happen to have a crane in here. Okay. Put this in place. One thing that we often see when people are building these types of logistical site plans is they actually use some of the components in here to help them figure out things like the crane radiuses and safety zones and so forth. You can come in here, and if you download a crane that you like or that you want to use, and just be aware that you're able to come in here and actually modify it to whatever size you need. So these are fully editable, but one thing that we often see is they use these cranes to better show the radius that they can affect. So I'm just drawing a circle at the center of the crane. I'll go ahead and extrude that up. Okay, go ahead and delete the top part there, delete the bottom. And perhaps I want to paint this red, and let's go ahead and edit that and give it some kind of transparency. Okay, so now that communicates pretty well, you know, the safety zone of this crane, you know, the area of influence that it can affect. Okay, a quick, easy way to visualize this in SketchUp. And of course, just as we showed before, along with the stuff the geometry and the things you build right in your site model here, you can obviously introduce previously made elements. Let's go back and actually import in that Tekla model. Okay, so I'll go ahead and grab it. Oops. And go ahead and just delete this here.
Okay, Chris, let's go ahead and open up the Westminster logistics model we created for that Phase 1 project.
Okay.
So I'm going to grab controls here a little bit so I can walk you through the project. So the team did use this logistics model extensively to show where employee parking was going to be during the construction process, where actual trailers and job site trailers were going to be set up for the GC and the individual subcontractors, down to portalet locations and dumpster locations. You can see the crane pad and actual representation of the crawler crane, and through the erection sequence showing where that crane was going to be located. So we did use this pretty extensively throughout the building process and modified it as conditions changed. Let's talk about how we'd use SketchUp for detailing and why we'd use SketchUp for detailing. So many times you get a lot of the details from your architects for a project in 2D, and we want to take those 2D details and turn them into a 3D model for visualization and validation. Also RFIs, if we have an existing condition that it's hard to represent with a traditional 2D method or a napkin sketch, we can get into SketchUp and turn it into a 3D model and show our proposed solutions and how that'll all come together. Also for virtual mock-ups, we have an example we'll get into here in a minute, but being able to show how all the parts and pieces come together and how the subcontractors will actually sequence their installations against each other. One of the examples we used on the Westminster project was a mock-up that we were building in the field, and then we actually created a virtual mock-up within SketchUp to show how everything came together. So we actually took 2D details from the architect and turned those into a 3D model. And then through the use of scenes, we actually created an animation to show how all these items would come together to create a waterproof construction. So as we walk through the scenes, you can see how each product actually goes in place, and this helps to align all the subcontractors so they know exactly who's going on first, where the fluid applied waterproofing is going, when the flashing is going to go on compared to the other products. And this makes it really easy to visualize and all the folks on site to understand who goes on first and how the whole thing gets put together.
On that note, Ian, would you say that, not just collaborating with the individual teams, but if you have the ability to actually build multiple versions of this, you might be able to figure out the best way to build this before you actually build the physical mock-up on site?
Definitely, and the most cost-effective.
Yeah. Those things aren't cheap, are they?
Never. Never.
So in this section of the video, we're going to be talking about the extended functionality of SketchUp. And by extended functionality, we mean both internal and external development on top of the SketchUp platform that helps people become more productive.
Okay. With that, we've got quite a few integrations within the Trimble family. So the intelligent positioning tools such as the Trimble FieldLink tablet and the robotic total station, we can actually import SketchUp models directly into the FieldLink tablet and use that for intelligent positioning and layout on the job site and for collecting data within your project and bringing that back into your 3D model.
Another one that has come up recently with the latest version of Tekla is you are now able to actually take SketchUp models, develop some of those hard to produce items, and actually import them directly into Tekla and actually get the valuable calculations that you might need, let it be rebar or volume calculations. And then another recent extension to SketchUp is something called Scan Explorer, which along with a RealWorks project, you're able to actually extract points of information from a point cloud basically and use that information in SketchUp to build a 3D model from. Outside the realm of Trimble integrations, there are literally hundreds of plugins developed by third-party partners and SketchUp users that extend the functionality of SketchUp. Many of these extensions can be found in the SketchUp extension warehouse. Extensions run the gamut from tools that help you create complex geometry, to add parametric behaviors, to tools that produce unique types of object animations, and photorealistic renderings. There are even plugins that are used for energy analysis and custom reporting.
Okay, well that pretty much wraps up what we wanted to try to cover here briefly in our short time together. If you guys have any other questions, we have some additional resources, and I'll let Chris kind of go through those.
Obviously, come to the SketchUp website. It's www.sketchup.com. You'll be able to download an evaluation of SketchUp there. There's plenty of case studies you can take a look at there as well. And then there is a training video section where you can go through and get a better feel for how SketchUp works and actually learn how to use it. If you have any questions about SketchUp itself, we have the Help Center that we have there. We have our own forum as well. And also be aware that if the videos that we have on our site aren't adequate, there's a huge channel that we have on YouTube, as well as we have a lot of our clients and third-party contributors also providing their own videos for you to learn from. For those extensions that we have that we showed you today, there's the extension warehouse. And then obviously we have the 3D warehouse that allows you to actually go through and download various 3D assets that you may want to use in your models.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you very much, Chris, and thank you for your time.